Hi everyone, welcome to my Shoreline Studio. I'm Sybille Muschik. Today we're going to be talking about more printmaking with the masks, the traditional tribal masks. This is a piece from the Tribal Arts by Berenice Jeffrey Schneider, and she has pictures of something tribal, a Dogon mask, and this is Picasso, and in the period of about 1909, he was past his blue period, and he discovered African masks probably in the museums at the time. And here we have his version of one of the tribal masks. Here's a better view of the mask in question from Berenice's book. So you can see how he used as reference this mask, and then, through color and, working with the noses and so forth, he made it his own. And of course he became famous for his work. I guess the tribal period lasted for quite a long time, and then he went on to his red period. So I'm into my printmaking period. So anyway, I have been making masks, but these are the gel plate masks. They're not tribal type masks. And these are the positives, the ones you can name, and these are the negatives outside. And we use both. We'll see how I use them. Here's another one. And I've been using this quite extensively, as you can see. And we'll be starting with that one. So let's go to the plate. So as well as my masks, which I showed you, I have some stencils. And these are my latest acquisition. They are stencils from the Jelly Arts people. They're nice and robust. This is my favorite, by the way. And I haven't tried this one yet. We'll see what happens with that. And we're going to do a profile first. And this is Tyvek. Tyvek cuts quite nicely and is very, very, hard to tear, and is fairly easy to work on. Some of these other ones, like the plastic, this is stencil cutting material, so it's plastic, and you can see that it has a little bit of an opaque finish to it, so you can actually see it. Sometimes I just use a transparency, and that's like this one, that was a transparency. Not this one, the other one I had. Anyway, it's from the last show. And then they're hard to see, so I usually keep a few black marks on it. Anyway, we're going to start with a stencil. And I'm just going to ink the plate. Oh, by the way, these are things I made. They're like texture plates. And they are just glue gun glue on. I put them on cardboard. I gesso the cardboard so that it will have a smoother surface, and then I soak it in hot water when it's done, and then just peel it off, and it works really good. And you have these strange things. You can do all sorts of shapes, of course, but sometimes I just like abstract shapes. So we'll use those. So we're going to start. We're going to ink up the plate, my 5x7 Jelly Arts plate. I have my Sybille brayer and my golden open paints, and we're ready to start here. So we just have to select the color, which is always interesting. And generally the rule is to keep it light to begin with. And I'm kind of a rule breaker, so we're going to start with burnt sienna, which is a lovely color. So we're going to brayer that out. And I have my brayering off paper handy. And it's just a light brayer that off. And we'll put our, we haven't tried the stencil yet, so we'll do that and we'll see what happens. And I might put maybe my texture plate on top of that. And here comes the crinkly stuff. And this is just to press it down. I'm not really lifting any paint this time. Sometimes that's interesting too. Do that later. Take this off. Take this off. And now here comes the fun part. We're going to put my mask on and position it so that it's interesting. And I've already lifted some of the paint off, so I don't want to do any more by putting the deli paper on again. So this is cardstock. And placing it, and then I'm going to use my Baren, my little Japanese tool, just to and we have our first print. Oh, and I like what happened. Now, with this whole series, I'm going to be doing them, and then we're going to put them aside and then rework, because this is very light and there's no, pattern on that, and maybe we need to add some color to that. But that's for later. It's got to dry. So put that aside. I mean, it is quite stark in terms of color, and it's interesting. We will do the, see how nicely that peels off, and look at how look at how interesting that is. Maybe we'll do something with that. And I'm going to take the now what's interesting about this is that the face is in the background and the circles are on top. So we will play with that. Okay, next step. Again, thinking about color, let's do something bluish, and maybe keep it reasonably light. Some cerulean blue with my golden open paints. Nice thing about those, I never have to put anything else on them. Works good. Cerulean blue has a little bit of titanium white in it, so it has kind of a texture when you put it on the plate. And you need to roll it to be really consistent. This mask goes two ways, so, and I'm going to position it again. This time we want the face to be a little bit darker, so what we're going to do is take our and lift some of the stuff on the back, just an ever so slight bit. And again, maybe we'll try this one, since we haven't tried it yet. And different circles. It's kind of an interesting thing on the bottom there. And once more, just pushing it down. I don't really want to take any more paint off, just to get it down. Now we take everything off. Again, we should have that interesting effect of it being on top. And we get quite a nice intaglio effect. We have wonderful line work here. The nose is a little strange. I don't know what happened there. Oh, there's a circle there, that's why. Okay, he's got a nose ring. What can I say? Okay, we'll work with that later. Okay, we're going to go on to a different mask now. And I'm just waiting for this. We'll go back to the other ones. We'll carry on a little bit with this. Now, this is my... Now this is sort of a foam. I got it, there's a lot of it at places like Walmart, Michael's and so forth, whatever store you have that supplies art supplies. And you can cut it, you can impress it as well. I just use a pencil and draw into it. So it's basically just one-sided. The other side isn't quite so interesting because it doesn't have any lines drawn into it. So we'll see what happens. Let's make it red. We'll do a alizarin crimson, maybe a bit of a rainbow roll here. If you remember from previous sessions how rainbow roll works, I'll just go over the end. And you basically roll the first color as far as it'll go, to about the half. And then the next color, again, down to the half. And then where they meet in the middle, you can go sort of back and forth, back and forth. And it's like a graded wash in watercolor. And it has a third color in the center. Okay, so we're going to put this down with all the little marks on the downside and just angle it slightly because it's a big mask. And we'll do some texture. Maybe my little texture plate to lift off some of the background paint. And now, with these kinds of things, you have to worry about the height, because if you do try and take paint off, like we did with the deli paper, you're going to have a halo because this is thicker, whereas the Tyvek and the plastic. See, now we've inked this, so we could use that as a stamp for something else. Now we'll see what happens here. Take a quick print. So the face should be lighter than the background because we had blanked it out. And it is. And we get a little bit of that rainbow roll effect and some of the texture from the, and that's quite interesting. I'm sort of doing a takeoff on Picasso's noses here. So I've elongated the nose, like some of the masks are elongated. And the eyes are, you know, it's a mask, so the eyes are like the cutout. And we'll set that aside. I think that's probably as much as we're going to do with that because we don't have the negative for it. I do, but it's not so easy to use. And we have this halo problem. So again, we'll use another piece of paper to get a nice ghost print. And we're going to take a break here and wash a few of these things so that I've got them good for the... And I'll be back in a flash. Okay, now we're ready for redoing some of these. I put one aside because I didn't have the heart to mess with it, but this one is good. Mind you, I want to keep the circles on the face, and of course I'm going to be, and I've offset it slightly. I've just put the mask on the print. We're getting into the tricky stuff, and it's a little more advanced than the usual beginner's things I do. But, you know, you gotta learn this stuff. So I'm going to use phthalo blue with a little bit of white. We're going to make it, and I might roll off quite a bit of the paint as well. So that's a lot of white. And we're going to roll it. Phthalo blue is very intense and it stains everything, so be really careful with this stuff. I'm rebrayering some of the darker stain areas, makes blobs, so we don't want blobs. So very carefully brayering off a lot of this. We want only a hint of color. So we want a kiss of paint on the plate. So here's where it gets tricky. We've offset the print, and I'm just going to move it over slightly, which means that I have to reposition it, but that's okay. So just slightly offset. And try and match up I often use my little pinkies for this. And because we don't have an image on there to speak of, you don't have to worry so much about registration. So it was a really strange effect. Like a double image. That's quite fun. Okay, now I'm taking that off. And again, registration. So that should be quite blue with this. So we have 3 colors. It's like the alter ego kind of thing. So it is tricky, but it can be done. And I'll just show it to the camera here. It's like 2 people there. Okay. Well, that was interesting. Let's try this one. And again, we're going to block out. Now I've already got blue on this, so that might print a little bit. And I don't know how much. So this is another way you can do it. Just put the image down, whatever is left on there. See what happens. So ever so slightly. Okay. Now we're going to just put a color on, and I think back to our alizarin crimson. Or no, this is burnt sienna, sorry. And just roll that on, and again, brayer most of it off. We just want a hint in the background. I'm going to put one of the stencils on there, just for background interest. Maybe this one. And it's going to, I don't know if we even need that on there, we'll see. And we're going to take off a lot of this paint. This is still kind of sticky, so. So I'm going to take this off. So we've removed most of the paint this way. And then so because we have the mask in place, what we're hoping for is that the pattern will go on the background, the face will block out the pattern. Turn over. Yes. That's sort of what I was expecting, so, and that's quite dramatic. And because, remember what we had on the Tyvek, I had some pattern drawn on there, and it actually showed up. And look how interesting that looks. But I will clean that off, so we'll lose most of it. So now we have a bit of color here, and a little bit of pattern, so I think we're done. I mean, there's other things you could do at the next level, Posca pens, pastels, colored pencil, watercolor if this were watercolor paper, which is not, it's just a good quality bond paper, acid-free. Well, it's snowing like crazy out there, and what better way to do artwork than to be in the studio and do some gel plate printing. Yes. So we're carrying on with the masks. And this one kind of reminds me of the Grecian, I guess my namesakes, the Sybils. They were priestesses that lived in Delphi, and they had to sit on this little stool with 3 legs, and they prophesied for one of the Greek gods, Apollo, I think. And they had to smell all these fumes and things. And then the priests, for some reason, did the interpretation. So makes you wonder who really did the prophesying. But anyway, I don't want a lot of stuff back there right now. We just... And this kind of comes in handy. It's subtle, it's light. We want to keep it light because the next we're going to use some real drama. And I'm going to take the mask off in this case. And we will print Baron. And of course, you've heard about Greek tragedies and plays and things of that nature. So you can see how light that is. So it definitely needs work. We just need to let that dry. So we'll run a couple more prints. Black is so stark, so maybe we'll do it. Payne's Gray is a nice color, but I haven't got it out at the moment. And the roller still has a little bit of the yellow ochre in it. So this could be quite lovely. Oops, there's a... Just notice that. We don't want any... What do you call those things? Blobs? Okay. Blobs will do. So if we put this in the background... And then take the deli paper take this off, put our mask back on, and what I'm hoping for, well, you'll see when we print it. And there's a few spots that need to sit still. See, I could put the deli paper on again and take even more off, but I don't want to, so I have to do this kind of thing. Okay, printing. And take this off. It's pretty good. Oh, well, we're going to have the pattern on there, which is fine. Okay, well, you don't see much of the face anymore, so I should have left the mask on. But I can put it back on because we are going to be doing it again. But the gray is quite lovely, isn't it? So, okay. I think we're going to blue on this one. That's just better. This is the cerulean blue again. And we've sprayered this one. I think it's kind of mucky, so we'll use this one instead. And we put the mask back on. And that will block out. So the background's going to be blue, right? And the mask will mask out the yellow so that the face stays yellow. That's the cunning plan, and that's what we're doing. And that's what we did. There we go. And that's quite effective. You could add embellishments to the face, you know, afterwards. That could be quite interesting. Let's do a ghost print of that. And we might take that one step further. Okay, so you can see the blue quite well, not so much the background. We're going to work with that. Okay, so we'll use purple. Oh, black is right there. But purple's nice. I know I dropped some on my drop cloth and there are still purple spots in spite of me scrubbing. So purple is really something to watch out for. Purple, of course, is the color of royalty and elegance and so forth. So it seems kind of appropriate. So we will do, we haven't used this one yet. Let's use this one. Just give a tiny bit of, and put it on there ever so slightly, just to get the pattern. Take it off. Could even use my texture plate on top of that. That one I don't have to use a deli paper. That gives a little more. And finally, our mask. Put our mask down. Tap it down really good. It'll be a lighter violet underneath. Okay, some of the textures on the face, which is all to the good. Okay. Okay, now I've put the negative on here. And it's stuck because the ink is still drying, it's fine. And we're going to run some gold over top of this. I'm just going to mix it with the purple. That makes the gold a little bit darker. This is, what is it? Amsterdam Standard Series. So we'll let that mix. Now don't forget, this is a metallic color. It dries like crazy, and we've got the mask. We don't have the mask on there, but we need the mask on there. We want the face to stay purple. And I don't want the background gold at this point. Maybe we'll just overpaint the face and then redo it. So it's a 3-step process. That would be the best. I don't have to worry so much about registration because we're not having the mask in position. So they have this very subtle, and the purples stayed nice, right? So that's using the negative. Now we have to get the mask, the features of the mask back on there. And the best way to do that, let's put the black back on with a little bit of purple. And the lattice work showed up quite well, so that's good. Tiny bit of purple. I'm not cleaning the plate at all. These are very intense colors, and they're just going to mix. And we are going to put this back on. So the gold should stay, the purple will have some black to it. We might lose the purple entirely, but we'll see. Ah, yes. Well, we did lose our purple background, but the face is so interesting. And of course, our ghost print. I tend to print the ghost prints more on bond paper because they don't have as much color on them anymore, and the bond picks up the last little remnants. So I know that's a tricky process, and I hope you'll try it. And of course you can crop the edges, that's not a problem. So put that there. And now our face is black with some purple, and the background we could do more on the background. Okay, so this one is really tricky. I'm gonna brayer on the gold. And I've placed my negative stencil down and the mask. So what I want it to do is to get the mask in place on the gel plate. It's supposed to pick it up. And that should glue it on there. Hopefully it'll stay. Not quite. But it's not really a problem because I know I can place it. and it's on here, so it's all good. Now we want a little bit more distinctiveness here, so I actually want to print again. I can place it on there precisely because we already did that. Now, here's where the tricky stuff comes in. I'm going to roll it over top. I've lost my black. Oh, here it is. When you get excited, you lose things, like lids and stuff. There's the lid. Whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll right over top. And so basically what we want, and here's where it's quite tricky because you do have to, it might have been good to do Gorilla plate printing, you know, having it attached so you can get it in the right place, but we didn't do it in this case, so you should usually be able to place it properly. Aha! Yes. Well, we pretty well got what we wanted. I can print it once more with the background. I think that'll be fine. I can line up the image. So as I said, it's a bit tricky, but can be done. A few layers. And I probably didn't need the negative on that last step so that it would have printed black, but that's okay. So here we have the pattern on the face. It's a little off. And I know if you do it, you'll do it so much better. There you go, and we'll post them as usual. So, well there, that was exciting. Well, thanks for joining me today, and as usual, it's fun here in the studio, and always hair-raising sometimes to rack up some of these prints. But come and join me for our next adventures at Shoreline Studio with Sybille Muschik. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe and share, of course. Bye for now.